My name's Jenny Mercer. I am the dye department supervisor and I work in costume.
And I'm Andrea Benson and I'm one of the gardeners in the garden department. We're at the dye garden in Glyndebourne. The dye garden is an area that's dedicated to growing plants that can be used in some way to create a colour. So I started creating the dye garden at the tail end of 2019, marking out the area, working out how big I wanted the beds to be and sort of having a think about what plants were going to go in and how much of each plant we wanted.
Having a dye garden in Glyndebourne's grounds was my idea, generally because I went on a course that was so inspiring because it was about a biodynamic farm and they talk about the cycle of life a lot, and I was really moved, and I came back the next week and asked the head gardener, Kevin, if we could do it here, because I assumed I could just take some of their plants from their big gardens. And he said, no, we need to do this properly. Let's talk to Andrea because she's got a background in this. And so we went from there, really.
In a previous job, I worked at the gardens of a museum, and we had a dye garden there which was very educational. So I worked in this dye garden for a long time, but it was about having as many plants from as large an area as possible to teach people about how they could be used and how different cultures and different countries use them. So when Jenny approached me about this, I was really excited to have a different take on it, because the idea is that everything here will actually be used for that purpose. And it was quite a challenge as well, because instead of just having small amounts of each plant to get as wide a variety of plants in, it was about growing a larger number to make sure that we had enough of the plant material to actually use it as a dye. We've got a variety of plants growing in the garden at the moment. In each bed there's about 4 or 5 different crops. So we've got plants that produce a blue dye, which is woad, which is this one here with the yellow flower. So that's the traditional colour that you might think of if you're thinking about a blue dye plant. And then further back we've got Japanese indigo, Persicaria tinctoria, which is also used the leaf to create a blue dye. We've got madder at the back, which produces a red colour from the roots. And then a lot of the other things that we've got in produce various shades of yellow, sort of mustardy yellow, greeny yellows, bright yellows and oranges. So we've got some coreopsis. This is Dyer's chamomile, Anthemis tinctoria. We've got some marigolds and dahlias as well. Oh, and weld as well. Just behind me we've got weld, which is a real traditional yellow dye.
Purple's really difficult to produce naturally. That's why in the olden days they had a real status symbol of having purple in your life was royalty, aristocrats, because it was from molluscs that were very rare. In plant form, it's not really possible. I think you can get tones of purple with certain things, but it's not really the same as a deep purple. The red in itself in this country is quite hard, but we're doing a seasonal thing where Andrea's going to plant it, and each year you get a different, because you only use the root, you get the root in different years. So you plant and you harvest so that you've always got a crop of madder, because that's the only one that gives a true red, like a scarlet. That's quite difficult to get your hands on.
A lot of the plants that we grow here are annuals, so I would sow the seed in maybe March, and then they'd grow during the season and then be flowering by the summer, end of summer maybe, and then they'd die back at the end of the year. So that means, for example, if you're looking at something where you use the flower, then really you've got a short space of only a couple of months where that flower's being produced. So at the moment we're looking at ways of extending that by drying the flowers so that Jenny can access them throughout the year. So we've got a store of them whenever she might need them.
Also, we did have a problem with the sheep.
Oh yes,
indigo dye here was being eaten by the sheep that were jumping over the fence. So it's not just weather, it's animals and rodents and all sorts of things that could take your crop out
just
in
next
one.
to us we've got a sheep field, and they were hopping over the fence, and I hadn't realised. I was wondering why this one particular plant just wasn't growing at all until I came in one day and actually found a ewe and 2 lambs munching quite happily.
It's tasty.
Very tasty, apparently.
I think it's important to take sustainability seriously generally, and we have so much potential here with the turbine and the gardens, and the general feeling for really pushing it forward. The positivity behind it is quite high at the moment, and all these little parts that we're all doing can do so much more.